Good evening, dear listeners, and a very warm welcome to our sonic haven, a space crafted especially to cradle your mind and gently guide it into the world of dreams. As the day bids farewell and the quiet of night embraces us, I invite you to settle in, to make yourselves as comfortable as you possibly can. Allow the weight of the world to simply dissolve, your worries to drift away like clouds carried on a gentle breeze. We are here, together, in this moment of peace, ready to embark on a journey that will carry us through time and imagination. Prepare to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let my voice be your guide tonight. Our hope is to weave a tapestry of words that will not only intrigue, but also soothe your spirit, preparing the way for a deep and truly restorative rest, where each syllable is another step towards serenity and the well-deserved repose that awaits. On this special night, our journey will transport us to the mysterious depths of the ocean and into history's enigmatic annals, as we explore one of humanity's most fascinating and persistent tales. We'll speak of a legendary civilization, a realm of unimaginable splendor, whose very mention conjures images of power, wisdom, and ultimately, a tragic and spectacular fall. Yes, tonight, we delve into the heart of the mystery of the lost city of Atlantis. This name, echoing through millennia, carries a fascination that transcends cultures and generations, fueling the curiosity of explorers, historians, artists, and dreamers alike. We will draw back the veils shrouding its legend, from its first appearance in philosophical writings to the modern-day searches for traces of its existence, all with the greater purpose of lulling your mind into a night of tranquil and restorative sleep, where mystery itself becomes a gentle cradle song. Our exploration won't be confined to a single point in time, but rather a passage that begins with the great philosopher Plato, the first to formally record the saga of Atlantis for the Western world around 360 BC. We'll investigate how his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, gave birth to this powerful narrative, perhaps initially as a parable about hubris and virtue, but one that quickly captured the imagination of many as a possible historical account. We will follow the trail of this legend through the centuries, observing how it was interpreted, forgotten, and rediscovered, influencing thinkers, inspiring literary works, and even appearing on maps as a real destination to be found. The journey of Atlantis in our collective consciousness is as fascinating as the city itself is described, showing how an idea can endure through time and adapt to new eras, continuing to captivate us with its enigma. Throughout this narrative, we'll touch upon the diverse facets that make up Atlantis's multifaceted legacy, from the utopian visions it inspired, like Francis Bacon's New Atlantis, which dreamed of an ideal society based on harmony between faith and reason, to adventurous portrayals such as the submerged ruins imagined by Jules Verne in his 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. We'll also see how, with the advancement of science and technology, the search for Atlantis took on new dimensions, with expeditions and discoveries that, though often explained by natural phenomena, kept the flame of hope and speculation alive. Our aim here isn't to solve the mystery definitively, but rather to appreciate the richness of the story and the depth of its appeal, allowing this exploration to lead us to a state of relaxation and contemplation before sleep. Therefore, as we prepare to delve into the details of this magnificent and mysterious saga, I want you to know that the primary purpose of tonight is your well-being, your rest. The story of Atlantis, with its contours of grandeur, mystery, and timeless lessons, will serve as the backdrop for our journey towards sleep. It's an invitation for your imagination to wander among submerged palaces and fertile plains, but always with the assurance that, in the end, tranquility will find you. Before we dive headfirst into the legend and its developments, we will dedicate a special moment to prepare body and mind so that we can absorb this story in the most serene and beneficial way possible, guiding you to a state of deep calm, essential for truly reinvigorating sleep. And now, before we navigate the enigmatic waters of the legend of Atlantis, let's dedicate a few precious moments to ourselves, to our body, and to our mind. I invite you to find a position that is truly comfortable, whether lying in your bed, feeling the soft support beneath you, or reclining in your favorite armchair. Gently close your eyes, if you haven't already, and allow the outside world to begin to dissolve. Bring your attention to your breath. Feel the air entering, nourishing your body, and exiting, carrying away any lingering tension. Inhale deeply through your nose, filling your lungs with calm, and exhale slowly through your mouth, releasing any worry, any thought that doesn't serve this moment of peace. Each inhalation brings more serenity. Each exhalation carries away what is no longer needed. Let your breath find a natural rhythm, soft and tranquil, like the gentle lapping of a serene lake at dusk. Now, let's begin a journey of relaxation together, one that will travel through your entire body, starting way down at your feet. Bring your awareness to your toes. Imagine each one becoming lighter, looser, as if tiny invisible tethers were being undone. Feel this sensation of release spread through the soles of your feet, through your heels, as if they were resting on warm, soft sand. Allow this wave of relaxation to travel up through your ankles, dissolving any stiffness. Feel your calves surrendering to rest, heavy and comfortable. Let your knees soften completely, without any effort at all. Your legs, from the tips of your toes to your knees, are now deeply relaxed, surrendered to gravity, sinking gently into the surface that supports them. Every muscle fiber surrenders to this state of deep and pleasant repose. The sensation of relaxation continues to rise. Now, enveloping your thighs, feel their pleasant weight, the muscles loosening, releasing any tension accumulated throughout the day. Allow this deep calm to reach your hips, your lower abdomen, areas that often hold on to worries and pressures. Let it all go. Feel as if a warm, gentle wave is passing through these regions, washing and purifying, leaving behind only a sense of lightness and well-being. Your abdomen becomes soft and relaxed, your breath flowing freely, without obstruction. The lower part of your body is completely surrendered, as if floating in calm, tepid waters. Imagine this tranquility deepening with each passing moment, with each soft, rhythmic breath you take, allowing calm to settle in completely and lastingly. Now, this wave of relaxation ascends to your torso. Feel your back settling in even more, each vertebra finding its place of rest. Your shoulders, which so often carry the weight of responsibilities, begin to drop, to release, letting go of any knot or tension. Allow this release to flow down your arms, through your elbows, forearms, until it reaches your wrists and hands. Feel your fingers loosening, perhaps even curling slightly, completely devoid of effort. Your hands, which have worked so hard, can now rest. Your chest opens gently, allowing for an even deeper, more tranquil breath. Your entire torso, your shoulders, arms, and hands are now immersed in a profound peace, a sense of calm that spreads like a comforting balm through every cell. Finally, the wave of relaxation reaches your neck and your head. Allow the muscles, of your neck to lengthen and release, letting go of any stiffness that might be there. Feel your jaw unclench, your teeth parting slightly. Relax the small muscles around your mouth and your eyes. Your forehead smooths out, as if all lines of worry were being gently erased. Even your scalp relaxes. Your entire body, from the tips of your toes to the crown of your head, is now in a state of deep relaxation and serenity. You are calm, peaceful, and perfectly prepared to receive the story that will follow. Remain in this state of peace as your mind opens to the journey that is about to begin, cradled by this inner stillness. And so, with your body relaxed and your mind serene, we begin our journey into the heart of a legend that has whispered through the ages. Let us now envision Atlantis, not as a submerged ruin, but as it might have been in its heyday. A kingdom of almost divine beauty and power, a glittering jewel in the vast ocean. Imagine, if you will, an island continent bathed in golden suns and crystalline waters, a place where nature and human artistry intertwined in perfect harmony. The ancient accounts, primarily passed down by Plato, paint Atlantis as an extraordinary civilization, founded by the gods, or more precisely by Poseidon, god of the seas, who fell in love with a mortal woman named Cleito and created this earthly paradise for her. It was a realm that radiated an aura of prosperity and wisdom, a beacon of civilization in a world still young, a testament to what humanity, blessed by the gods, could achieve. The architecture of Atlantis, according to descriptions, was a marvel of engineering and aesthetics, a spectacle for the eyes. The capital city, also named Atlantis, was built in a series of concentric circles of land and water, created by Poseidon himself to protect his beloved. Imagine rings of land alternating with navigable canals, as if the city itself were a floating mandala. Arched bridges connected these rings, and the canals shimmered under the sun, reflecting the grand buildings that rose on their banks. It is said that the walls encircling each ring were clad in precious metals, the outermost ring with bronze, the next with tin, and the ring of the inner citadel, the Acropolis, with orichalcum, a mysterious metal that, according to Plato, gleamed with a reddish light and was considered second only to gold in value. This unique layout was not only defensive, but also a colossal work of art, visible from afar. At the heart of the citadel, in the central ring, stood the most imposing and sacred of all buildings, the temple dedicated to Poseidon and Cleito. This was no ordinary temple. Its grandeur reflected the power of the god who sponsored it. Legends tell that its outer walls were sheathed in silver, and its pinnacles, of pure gold, shining so brightly they dazzled the eye. Inside, the ceiling was crafted from ivory, adorned with gold, silver, and the enigmatic orichalcum, creating a spectacle of light and color. Colossal gold statues, including one of Poseidon driving his chariot drawn by 6 winged horses, filled the vast interior. There, the Atlanteans offered sacrifices and celebrated rituals in honor of their protective deity, surrounded by an opulence that spoke of their deep connection to the divine and their immense material wealth, a place of unparalleled reverence and power. But Atlantis was not just a place of temples and palaces. Life thrived in its vibrant marketplaces, filled with exotic goods from every corner of its vast empire. Imagine the sounds, the smells, rare spices, fine textiles, precious metals, succulent fruits, and the buzz of merchants and citizens trading and socializing. The harbors bustled with ships arriving and departing, bringing riches and knowledge from distant lands and carrying away the products of Atlantean skill. There were also gymnasiums, public baths, hippodromes, and lush gardens where citizens could exercise, relax, and appreciate the beauty that surrounded them. It was a society that valued physical and intellectual development as much as spiritual, a center of culture and commerce unrivaled in its time, pulsating with an infectious energy and admirable sophistication. Beyond the capital city, the plains that stretched across the island were incredibly fertile, blessed by an ingenious irrigation system that ensured bountiful harvests year-round. Majestic mountains encircled these plains, protecting them from cold winds and providing rivers of pure water. The people of Atlantis were described as extraordinarily skilled, just, and prosperous. They were masters of various arts and sciences, from agriculture and engineering to navigation and philosophy. They lived in harmony, initially, with the divine laws established by Poseidon, enjoying a peaceful and virtuous existence. They were known for their physical beauty, their longevity, and their wisdom. For many generations, Atlantis flourished as a model of perfect civilization, a kingdom where material abundance and spiritual elevation walked hand in hand, a true earthly Eden. However, as happens in so many tales of power and glory, the seed of Atlantis's own destruction began to germinate in its fertile soil, not from an external threat, but from within the hearts of its inhabitants. The divine nature bestowed upon them, the spark of wisdom and virtue that distinguished them, began to dilute with the passing generations. Mortal blood, mixed with the divine, gradually began to prevail, and with it, human weaknesses started to flourish where nobility of spirit once reigned. The simplicity and justice that characterized the early Atlanteans were slowly eroded by an insatiable desire for more power, more wealth, more control. Moderation gave way to ostentation, and humility to unbridled pride. It was a subtle decline at first, almost imperceptible, like a shadow lengthening at dusk, but one that inexorably advanced to swallow the light. Greed and pride, like weeds, took deep root in the Atlantean soul. The gleam of orichalcum and gold no longer merely reflected the blessing of the gods, but also the avarice in their eyes. They began to scorn the divine laws that had once guided their conduct, considering themselves superior, self-sufficient, almost as gods themselves. The relentless pursuit of material conquests and territorial expansion led them astray from the virtues that had made their kingdom so grand. Wisdom was replaced by arrogance, compassion by cruelty. Accounts suggest that the Atlanteans, intoxicated by their own power and technological advancements, began to undertake military campaigns to subjugate other nations, seeking to impose their dominion over the known world. They forgot that their power was a gift, not a right, and that with great gifts come great responsibilities. The harmony that once reigned gave way to a feverish desire for domination. This moral deviation did not go unnoticed by the watchful eyes of the Olympian gods. Zeus, king of the gods, who observes the behavior of mortals and upholds cosmic order, saw with sorrow the corruption that had taken root in Atlantis. That civilization, once an example of piety and justice, had transformed into a den of hubris and impiety. It is said that Zeus convened an assembly of the gods to deliberate on the fate of the Atlanteans. The sadness and disappointment were palpable, for Atlantis had been a beloved creation. However, the transgression had reached an intolerable point. The Atlanteans not only strayed from divine teachings, but began to challenge the very authority of the gods, believing themselves invincible. And so, with a heavy heart, but with the firmness necessary to maintain the balance of the universe, their destruction was decreed. An exemplary punishment to remind all mortals of the dangers of hybris of overweening pride. Then, the fury of nature, or perhaps divine wrath, was unleashed upon the magnificent island. In a single terrible day and night, the fate of Atlantis was sealed. Violent earthquakes shook the foundations of the once proud civilization, cracking the earth, toppling the gleaming temples and imposing palaces. Structures that had seemed eternal crumbled like sandcastles, but the greatest devastation came from the sea, Poseidon's domain, which now turned against its own creation. Colossal waves, tsunamis of unimaginable proportions, rose from the ocean depths and swept over the island, obliterating everything in their path. The shimmering canals turned into destructive torrents, the fertile plains were inundated, and the city of concentric circles was swallowed by the raging waters. The cries of the Atlanteans were lost in the deafening roar of the elements, and so, in a cataclysm of epic proportions, the great and mighty Atlantis vanished beneath the ocean. Waves as if it had never existed. The land that had harbored such an advanced and prosperous civilization was reclaimed by the sea, and its secrets, its riches, and its people were entombed in the abyssal depths. Where once there was life, color, and movement, only the vast, silent ocean remained, forever guarding the mystery of a lost city. The fall of Atlantis has since served as a powerful allegory about the fragility of human greatness, when unaccompanied by humility and respect for the greater forces that govern. The universe, the city of gold and orichalcum, became a whispered legend, a ghostly memory of a paradise lost due to the arrogance of its own inhabitants, an eternal warning echoing through the ages. The story of Atlantis, with all its grandeur and its tragic fall, did not emerge from thin air, nor from ancient archaeological digs, but rather from the pen of one of history's greatest philosophers, Plato. It was he, around 360 BC, who first recorded the saga of this lost civilization in his famous dialogues Timaeus and Critias. In these texts, Plato presents the story of Atlantis through characters who recount it as an ancestral tradition, supposedly passed down from Egyptian priests to the Athenian lawmaker Solon, and thenceforth, through generations, to Critias, the main narrator of the legend within the dialogue. It's crucial to understand this literary context, as it fundamentally shapes how the story of Atlantis has been received and interpreted over the centuries. The narrative is embedded in a broader philosophical discussion about the nature of the ideal society and the workings of the cosmos, which already suggests a purpose beyond mere historical reporting. In the dialogue Timaeus, the story of Atlantis is briefly introduced as an example of a powerful maritime civilization that existed 9,000 years before Solon and waged war against a prehistoric Athens, an Athens idealized by Plato as an example of a virtuous and well-governed state. This ancestral Athens, though smaller and less opulent than Atlantis, supposedly managed, thanks to its courage and discipline, to defeat the mighty invader and liberate the peoples subjugated by it, shortly before the cataclysm engulfed the Atlantean island. Then, in the dialogue Critias, which unfortunately remained unfinished, Plato begins to describe Atlantis in much more vivid detail. Its geography, its circular architecture, its system of government, its riches, and finally, the beginning of its moral decay. It is here that we find the descriptions of Poseidon's temple, the canals, and the walls clad in precious metals that have so fueled popular imagination. Many scholars believe Plato's original intention in presenting the story of Atlantis was not to provide a factual historical record, but rather to create a parable, a philosophical allegory. Atlantis, with its immense power and eventual corruption, by greed and hubris, would serve as a counterpoint to his idealized Athens, an example of the dangers of moral decay and unchecked imperialism. It would be Plato's way of illustrating his political and ethical theories, showing how a society, no matter how advanced and powerful, can crumble if it abandons the principles of justice, moderation, and virtue. The fall of Atlantis, therefore, would function as a solemn warning, a lesson about human hybris and its catastrophic consequences, a recurring theme in ancient Greek literature and thought. The narrative was possibly aimed at educating and alerting his contemporaries about the direction of Athens itself. However, Plato's immense philosophical authority had a curious and lasting effect. Although he himself framed the story as an ancient legend, the precision and richness of detail with which he described Atlantis led many of his contemporaries, and especially posterity, to interpret his account literally. If a thinker of Plato's stature dedicated so much time to describing this place, some argued, then surely there must be a kernel of historical truth behind the narrative. The line between philosophical allegory and historical record began to blur. Plato's reputation as a seeker of truth lent the legend of Atlantis a weight and credibility it might not have had if it originated from a less revered source. Thus, a story possibly conceived as a vehicle for philosophical ideas began its long journey to become one of the world's greatest historical mysteries. In this way, Plato's work planted the seed of a fascination that endures to this day. His dialogues not only gave us the name and description of Atlantis, but also established the archetype of the lost, advanced civilization, a theme that would be revisited countless times in literature and popular culture. Plato's intentional or unintentional ambiguity, whether he was recounting a real story, inventing an allegory, or perhaps a mixture of both, drawing inspiration from real events like the eruption of Thera or other known catastrophes, is part of what makes Atlantis so captivating. He left us with an enigma, an invitation to interpretation that has been accepted by countless generations, each seeking in the story of Atlantis reflections of their own hopes, fears, and aspirations, a testament to the enduring power of a philosopher's words. After the initial impact of Plato's writings, the legend of Atlantis, like many other narratives from the ancient world, sank into a period of relative obscurity during Europe's so-called Dark Ages. With the fall of the Western Roman Empire and the subsequent fragmentation of classical knowledge, Plato's dialogues, and with them the story of the submerged city, became less accessible. The concerns of the era were more focused on survival, faith, and the consolidation of new social and political structures. The intellectual focus shifted, and monastic libraries, as guardians of ancient knowledge, prioritized theological and philosophical texts that aligned more directly with Christian doctrines. Although the idea of lost lands and earthly paradises never completely vanished from the popular imagination, Plato's specific and detailed description of Atlantis lay dormant, awaiting an opportune moment to re-emerge in the Western collective consciousness, a literary treasure awaiting rediscovery. This awakening began to happen gradually, and the legend of Atlantis found a new lease on life around the 12th century. This was a period when Europe was beginning to reopen to the world, driven by the Crusades and the revival of trade. Accounts from explorers and travelers who ventured into unknown seas and distant lands began to circulate, bringing with them tales of mysterious islands and exotic civilizations. Although not always directly linked to Atlantis, these narratives rekindled interest in mythical geographies and legendary lands that might exist beyond the known horizon. Curiosity about what lay hidden in the far reaches of the ocean was reawakened, and ancient stories, including Plato's, began to be revisited by scholars and the curious, who saw in them possible echoes of lost truths or places yet to be found, a harbinger of the age of great voyages. The true renaissance of the legend, however, occurred during the Renaissance, a period of effervescent rediscovery of Greco-Roman classical culture. With the translation and wider dissemination of Plato's texts, including Timaeus and Critias, the story of Atlantis once again captivated the imagination of intellectuals, artists, and crucially, cartographers. These map scholars, fascinated by Plato's detailed descriptions and the possibility of a large island continent in the Atlantic, began to seriously consider its existence. Plato's authority was such that many did not hesitate to accept Atlantis as a real geographical place that had been lost. This was a significant turning point. The legend began to migrate from the realm of philosophy and allegory to that of geography and exploration, transforming from a moral parable into a potential destination to be discovered. Driven by this renewed belief, some prominent cartographers of the Renaissance and early modern age dared to include Atlantis on their maps of the Atlantic Ocean. Figures like Athanasius Kircher in the 17th century produced detailed maps that located the lost island, based on clues provided by Plato. These cartographic representations, though speculative, had a powerful impact. Seeing Atlantis drawn on a map, alongside known lands, conferred upon it an aura of tangible reality. For many, this was almost proof of its past existence. The island ceased to be just a story told in philosophical salons and became a point on the globe, a challenge for navigators and adventurers, a mystery that perhaps could be solved by exploring the vast and still largely unknown oceans. The map became an invitation to adventure. Thus, the legend of Atlantis sailed through the centuries, adapting and transforming with each new era. From its obscurity in the Middle Ages, it re-emerged with the renewed vigor of the Renaissance, no longer just as a fable, but as a geographical possibility, an enigma to be deciphered. This period was crucial in solidifying Atlantis's image in the Western imagination as a real place, a lost paradise awaiting discovery beneath the waves. The transition from a philosophical allegory to an item on explorers' maps marked a fundamental shift in how the legend was perceived, paving the way for the searches and theories that would follow in the centuries to come, keeping alive the flame of one of humanity's most enduring mysteries. The journey of the legend reflects humanity's own quest for knowledge and meaning. As the legend of Atlantis solidified in the collective imagination, it not only inspired geographical searches, but also became fertile ground for philosophical reflection and literary creation. The idea of an advanced, lost civilization offered a vast field for exploring both utopian ideals and hidden mysteries. In the 17th century, the English philosopher and scientist Francis Bacon took the concept of Atlantis and reimagined it in a profoundly influential way in his unfinished work, New Atlantis, published posthumously in 1627. Bacon wasn't interested in finding Plato's Atlantis, but rather in using the name and aura of mystery to propose his own vision of an ideal society, a utopia based on scientific knowledge and cooperation. This work became a landmark in utopian thought, showing how the legend could be adapted to reflect the aspirations of a new age. In Bacon's New Atlantis, the society of the island of Bensalem is characterized by the organized and systematic pursuit of knowledge through an institution called Salomon's House. This center for scientific research was the heart of society, dedicated to uncovering nature's secrets to improve human life. The inhabitants of Bensalem were portrayed as virtuous, pious, and deeply devoted to learning and innovation. Unlike Plato's Atlantis, which succumbed to corruption and war, Bacon's New Atlantis represented an ideal of progress achieved through reason, experimentation, and a harmonious faith. It was an optimistic vision of human potential, where science and religion coexisted peacefully, working together for the common good. Bacon used the familiarity of the name Atlantis, to present a model of society he hoped could inspire reforms and advancements in his own time. Centuries later, in the 19th century, a period of great scientific ferment and exploration, the legend of Atlantis found a new literary champion in Jules Verne, the master of science fiction and adventure. In his celebrated work, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, published in 1870, Verne takes his readers on an extraordinary journey through the ocean depths aboard the submarine Nautilus, commanded by the enigmatic Captain Nemo. In one of the book's most memorable moments, the Nautilus visits the submerged ruins of Atlantis itself. Verne, with his vivid imagination and appreciation for scientific detail, even if speculative, paints a melancholic and grand picture of the lost city, with its crumbling temples and buildings, now inhabited by marine life, a silent testament to a bygone glory and an unfathomable mystery. Verne's portrayal differed from Bacon's utopia. He was more interested in the romance of discovery and the tragic majesty of the ruins. For Captain Nemo, a man disillusioned with the surface world and its conflicts, the ruins of Atlantis represented a refuge, a place for contemplation on the rise and fall of civilizations, and perhaps a mirror of his own tormented soul. The visit to Atlantis in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea not only rekindled popular interest in the legend, but also solidified it as an archetypal destination for submarine adventure. Verne masterfully captured the enduring fascination with the idea of secrets hidden beneath the waves, of entire civilizations waiting to be rediscovered in the silent, dark depths of the ocean, fueling the imagination of generations of readers with the possibility of underwater wonders. Thus, both Francis Bacon and Jules Verne, each in their own way and in their respective times, demonstrated the enduring power and malleability of the Atlantis legend. Bacon used it as a vehicle for his ideas about an ideal society, focused on science and virtue, offering a vision of hope and progress. Verne, on the other hand, explored its potential for adventure and mystery, evoking the somber beauty of a lost world and the allure of the unknown. These literary reinterpretations not only kept the legend alive, but also enriched it with new layers of meaning, showing how Atlantis could be a mirror for utopian aspirations, a setting for fantastic explorations, or a meditation on history and human destiny. The lost city continued to evolve, not on geographical maps, but in the boundless landscapes of the imagination. In the late 19th century, a period marked by fervent scientific optimism and an insatiable thirst for discoveries that could rewrite human history, the legend of Atlantis found a new and influential proponent. This was Ignatius Donnelly, an American politician, writer, and thinker, who, in 1882, published a work that would become a landmark in the history of Atlantology, Atlantis, the Antediluvian World. Donnelly was not content to see Atlantis merely as a Platonic allegory or a literary fantasy. For him, Atlantis was an undeniable historical fact, the key to understanding the origins of all the world's great civilizations. His book was not a work of fiction, but a passionate attempt to present Atlantis as a geographical and historical reality, using what he considered to be scientific and comparative evidence to support his bold theories. Donnelly argued vehemently that Atlantis was not just an advanced civilization, but the very cradle of human civilization. He postulated that this great island continent, located in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, would have been the point of origin from which knowledge of agriculture, metallurgy, architecture, and writing spread to Egypt, to pre-Columbian Americas, and to other ancient cultures around the globe. To support this radical idea, he compiled a vast range of evidence, seeking parallels between the mythologies, languages, cultural practices, and symbols of geographically distant civilizations. He saw similarities in flood legends, in the construction of pyramids on both sides of the Atlantic, and in the worship of sun gods, interpreting all of this as proof of a common source, the powerful and forgotten Atlantis. To give a scientific veneer to his thesis, Donnelly also ventured to use recent geographical and oceanographic discoveries of his time. He pointed to the existence of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, a vast underwater mountain range stretching through the center of the Atlantic Ocean, as possible mountainous remnants of the sunken island. The Gulf Stream, that powerful ocean current flowing from the Gulf of Mexico towards Europe, was, in his view, a natural route that survivors of Atlantis might have used to reach new continents after the cataclysm. He also cited the distribution of certain species of flora and fauna on both sides of the Atlantic as further evidence of an ancient land connection. Although many of his interpretations were highly speculative and did not withstand rigorous scientific scrutiny, they were presented with great conviction and eloquence. The impact of Donnelly's book was immense. Atlantis, the Antediluvian World, became a bestseller, capturing the imagination of the Victorian public, who were fascinated by archaeological discoveries like Troy and Mycenae, and eager for grand narratives that could explain the mysteries of the past. Donnelly's work offered a unifying theory, a master key to ancient history, and did so in an accessible and exciting way. He transformed the search for Atlantis from scholarly speculation into a topic of popular debate, inspiring a wave of interest and new theories about the lost city. Many were convinced by his arguments, and the idea of Atlantis as a real mother civilization gained unprecedented strength, influencing occultists, theosophists, and adventurers for decades. Despite the scientific community of the time, and even more so today, having refuted most of Donnelly's proofs and conclusions, considering them pseudoscience, his legacy in popularizing the legend of Atlantis is undeniable. He managed, like few before him, to position Atlantis at the center of a debate that mixed history, mythology, and science, or what passed for science at the time. His work demonstrated how deeply the idea of an ancestral and powerful civilization resonated with the public, and how much people wished to believe in a glorious and mysterious past. Ignatius Donnelly, with his passion and persuasive rhetoric, helped shape the modern perception of Atlantis, not just as a philosophical legend, but as a historical enigma that many still yearn to solve. A heritage that persists even in the face of more skeptical explanations. With the arrival of the 20th century and the dizzying advance of technology, especially in submarine exploration, the search for Atlantis gained new tools, and with them, new hopes and controversies. Sonar, research submarines, and later, remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, opened up the ocean depths in a way that Ignatius Donnelly and his contemporaries could hardly have dreamed. This new technological arsenal allowed Atlantis hunters to take their investigations to the seabed, the supposed resting place of the lost city. The promise of finally finding physical evidence of Atlantis seemed closer than ever, and the 20th century witnessed a series of expeditions and discoveries that kept the legend in the spotlight, fueling the debate between skeptics and enthusiasts, and keeping the flame of curiosity burning brightly. One of the locations that generated the most excitement and speculation was the Bahamas region, particularly around the island of Bimini. In 1968, a submerged rock formation known as the Bimini Road, or Bimini Wall, was discovered near the coast. It consists of a series of large, rectangular and polygonal limestone blocks, arranged in a straight line for about half a mile, 800 meters, at a depth of only a few feet. To many, including the psychic Edgar Cayce, who had prophesied the discovery of parts of Atlantis near Bimini, this formation seemed unequivocally artificial, the remains of an ancient road wall, or harbor foundation built by an advanced civilization. The discovery generated a media frenzy and attracted countless researchers and divers, all eager to confirm if they had found the first tangible trace of the legendary Atlantis. However, the conventional geological and archaeological community offered alternative, less romantic explanations for the Bimini Road. Most scientists concluded that the formation is, in fact, a natural phenomenon known as beach rock, sedimentary rock that forms in the intertidal zone through the cementation of beach sediments. The regular shapes and right angles of the blocks would be the result of natural fractures in the rock along its lines of weakness, a common process in geological formations of this type. Despite these scientific explanations, which are widely accepted today, the Bimini Road continues to be a pilgrimage site for believers in the existence of Atlantis, a symbol of the hope that answers to the mystery still lie beneath the shallow Caribbean waters, a reminder of the power of interpretation and desire. Other alleged discoveries emerged in different parts of the world, each briefly reigniting the Atlantis fever. In Japan, the Yonaguni structure, a massive underwater rock formation with seemingly carved terraces and steps, discovered in the 1980s, was also proposed by some as the work of an unknown ancient civilization, perhaps linked to a lost Pacific continent, like Mu, or even an Atlantean colony. Similarly, sporadic reports of anomalous structures or geometric shapes detected by sonar in the depths off Cuba and in other areas of the Atlantic and Mediterranean were sometimes hastily linked to the legend. In each of these cases, however, natural geological explanations or a lack of conclusive evidence after further investigation tended to prevail among most experts, but not before generating headlines and inspiring new theories. Thus, the 20th century, with its expanded technological capabilities, did not bring the definitive proof of Atlantis's existence that many had hoped for. Instead, it demonstrated the complexity of interpreting underwater formations and the human tendency to see patterns and purpose, where only the play of nature and time may exist. The discoveries often turned out to be mirages, intriguing geological formations, but not the work of ancient human hands. Nevertheless, each new claim, each mysterious underwater image, served to keep the flame of the search alive. The exploration of the 20th century, even without finding the lost city, contributed to the mapping of the oceans and the understanding of submarine geological processes, while at the same time underscoring how deeply the myth of Atlantis is, rooted in our culture, always ready to resurface at the slightest suggestion of a ruin beneath the waves. And so, we arrive at a fundamental question that hovers over this entire saga. Why does the legend of Atlantis persist so strongly in our collective consciousness, even after centuries of fruitless searches and in the absence of concrete, universally accepted proof of its existence? The answer perhaps lies not in ancient maps or underwater rock formations, but in the profound and multifaceted symbolic appeal that this story carries within itself. Atlantis survives not because its physical existence has been proven, but because it touches upon universal longings and fears, echoing at different frequencies for different kinds of souls. It is a mirror where we project our own hopes, curiosities, and warnings, a tale that refuses to be merely a footnote in history books, preferring to live vibrantly in our imagination, a beacon of infinite possibilities. For dreamers and idealists, Atlantis represents the eternal lost paradise, the vision of a golden age where humanity lived in harmony, wisdom, and prosperity. It is the nostalgia for a state of perfection that may never have existed, but which soothes the heart with the possibility of a better, fairer, and more beautiful world. The image of a civilization that reached a pinnacle of spiritual and material development, only to be swallowed by the waves, evokes a sense of profound loss, but also a faint hope that such a state of grace might, somehow, be rediscovered or rebuilt. Atlantis, for these hearts, is less a geographical place and more a state of being, an ideal of innocence and fulfillment that we ceaselessly seek, a mental refuge against the imperfections of the present, a whisper that the extraordinary is possible. For adventurers and explorers of body and soul, Atlantis is the ultimate treasure to be found, the supreme mystery to be unraveled. It personifies the unknown, the challenge of going beyond the frontiers of the known world, whether in the depths of the ocean or in the most remote corners of history. The idea of a rich, advanced city, engulfed by the sea, replete with lost artifacts and knowledge, is an irresistible invitation to adventure. Each new theory, each anomaly detected on the seabed, rekindles the flame of the treasure hunt, the thrill of imminent discovery. For these restless spirits, Atlantis is the promise that great secrets are still guarded by the planet, enigmas awaiting the courage and insight of those who dare to search, a reminder that the world still holds wonders hidden beneath the veil of time and water. And for thinkers and philosophers, Atlantis serves as a powerful and timeless lesson about human hubris, the hybris that, according to the ancient Greeks, precedes a fall. The narrative of a civilization that, intoxicated by its own power and wealth, defied the gods or the laws of nature and was punished with annihilation, resonates as a constant warning. It invites us to reflect on the nature of progress, the limits of knowledge, and the consequences of arrogance. The story of Atlantis forces us to question the sustainability of our own civilizations, to ponder the delicate balance between ambition and humility, between technological development and moral wisdom. It is a metaphor for the fragility of all great human constructions in the face of greater forces, be they divine, natural, or the flaws inherent in our own nature. In this way, the legacy of Atlantis is incredibly multifaceted, adapting and resonating in distinct ways over time and across different cultures. The idea of a magnificent city, an entire civilization, being swallowed by the sea in a sudden cataclysm, possesses a dramatic and visual power that continues to fascinate and inspire artists, writers, filmmakers, and musicians. It is an archetype of loss, memory, and mystery. Atlantis persists because it is more than just a story. It is a repository of meanings, a catalyst for the imagination, and an inexhaustible source of questions about who we are, where we came from, and where we might be going. Its legend is an ocean in itself, with depths we continue to explore, always finding new reflections of our own concerns and aspirations. And so, our journey through the history and mystery of the lost city of Atlantis gently draws to a close for tonight. We've walked the paths laid down by Plato, navigated the interpretations of thinkers and dreamers, and delved into the searches, both literal and metaphorical, for this enigmatic realm. As we reflect on all that has been said, the magnificence described and the tragic fall, the theories and the discoveries, a question hovers gently in the air, like mist over an ocean at dawn. Could Atlantis be more a construction of our vast and fertile imagination than a physical place waiting to be found? Perhaps its true essence lies not in geographical coordinates, but in the boundless space of the human mind, where the grandest dreams and deepest fears find their expression. It may be that Atlantis is, indeed, an ideal, an archetype of lost perfection, a collective dream humanity has cherished through the millennia, a dream of a time when we lived in greater harmony with nature and the divine, a longing for deeper knowledge and a more meaningful existence. Or perhaps it's a mirror reflecting our own ambitions and frailties. A constant reminder that pride and greed can lead to ruin, no matter how advanced a civilization may seem. The beauty of the Atlantis legend lies, in large part, in its capacity to be so many things to so many people, to mold itself to the contours of our own inner search for meaning, for answers, or simply for a good story to lull us and make us ponder as the night deepens. The question, "What do you believe?" is not a challenge, but a gentle invitation to your own imagination. It matters little whether you see Atlantis as a historical reality waiting to be unearthed, an ingenious philosophical allegory, or an inspiring work of fiction. What truly matters is the power this story holds to transport us, to make us reflect, and to connect us with something larger than ourselves. The legend of Atlantis remains alive not because of irrefutable maps or artifacts, but because it resides in a far more resilient and accessible place. It exists just beneath the surface of our imagination, always ready to emerge when we allow our minds to wander among the mysteries of the past and the possibilities of what might have been or what still might be. And as you settle even more comfortably, allowing sleep to envelop you like a soft, welcoming cloak, let the images of Atlantis, its shining canals, its imposing temples, its wise people, and its dramatic fall, mingle gently with your own dreams. Perhaps you'll visit its fertile plains in thought, or walk its circular streets, or maybe you'll just feel the serene presence of a mystery that calms rather than agitates. The story of Atlantis, with its submerged ending, can be the perfect invitation for you too to dive deep into a restorative rest, letting the day's worries sink and disappear, like the city itself beneath the tranquil waves of the night that now cradles you. May the mysteries of the world, the ancient tales, and the wonders of your own imagination accompany you tonight, guiding you to a deep, peaceful sleep filled with serene dreams. May rest revitalize you, and may peace find you. Sleep well.